187 days. That's how long Michael Carter managed to keep his past buried in the quiet border town of Silver Creek, New Mexico. Trading his military career for a quiet life, he built something new, something simple. Running Carter's Grill, the town's favorite diner, he became just another hard-working man, known for making the best chili in 3 counties and for being a devoted father to his teenage son, Ethan. But when the Zayas Cartel set their sights on Silver Creek, looking to expand their operation across the border, they saw the diner as just another vulnerable business to claim. They watched him serve coffee, wipe down tables, and help Ethan with his homework. They never noticed how every table in the diner was positioned for maximum visibility, how his kitchen knives were arranged with military precision, or how his eyes, once trained to track high-value targets across hostile terrain, never stopped scanning every face that walked through the door. Their first mistake was thinking they could break him with threats and intimidation. Their second was sending armed men into a place where every possible point of attack had already been planned for over a decade. But their final and deadliest mistake was threatening Ethan. They had no idea what kind of man they were dealing with. Carter had spent 20 years eliminating threats in places the government didn't acknowledge. If they thought he would let them take his home, his town, his son, they were about to learn the hard way. Dawn broke over Silver Creek as Carter checked the diner's coffee machine for the 3rd time. His movements were efficient, controlled, but his mind was already calculating. The regulars would be arriving soon, bringing with them the usual mix of gossip and local worries. The bell above the door chimed as Ethan rushed in, slinging his backpack over one shoulder. "Dad, you won't believe what Jake saw at the gas station last night." Carter continued his work, but his attention sharpened. What kind of trouble is Jake getting into now? 3 black SUVs, all with Chihuahua plates. The guys inside looked like Cartel, expensive suits, gold chains, the whole thing. Carter kept his expression neutral, though his mind was already working through contingencies. Lots of people drive in from Mexico, son. Doesn't make them Cartel. Before Ethan could argue, Maria Alvarez, the elderly owner of the town's grocery store, took her usual seat by the window. But today, something about her was different. Her usual warmth was absent, replaced by something else. Fear. "Miguel," she said softly, "we need to talk about what's happening." Before Carter could respond, the diner door swung open again. Deputy Travis Holden stepped inside, his uniform crisp but his expression troubled. He nodded toward Carter, taking his usual seat at the counter. "Morning, Mike. Coffee, please. And maybe a minute of your time." Carter poured his coffee. "Something wrong?" Holden stirred his cup, glancing around the room before lowering his voice. "Had 2 business owners report some aggressive visitors last night, offering protection. More who didn't report but got the same message." Carter wiped down the counter, his movements slow, deliberate. And I've got 3 vandalized businesses this morning. Windows smashed, nothing stolen, just messages left behind." Through the diner window, Carter spotted a black SUV parked across the street, same make and model Ethan had described. 2 men stood outside, watching, studying. He felt Ethan tense beside him. "Dad, I see them." Carter's voice remained calm. "Go help Maria in the back, kid." But now, the bell chimed again. The man who entered was tall, scarred across one cheek. He moved like someone used to people stepping out of his way. He stopped at the counter, offering Carter a thin, practiced smile. "Nice place you have here." "Glad you like it," Carter said evenly. "Coffee?" The man nodded, taking a seat. "Name's Rafael Ortega. My associates and I are expanding our business interests in the area. Thought we'd talk about a partnership." Carter poured the coffee, setting the cup down carefully. "Not interested." Ortega leaned back, unfazed. "That's what the others said, at first." He slid a business card across the counter. "Think about it." Carter didn't look at the card. Ortega smiled, standing. As he turned to leave, he paused. "Handsome kid you've got. Be a shame if something happened to him." The diner fell silent. Holden shifted slightly, hand near his belt, but Carter gave him the smallest shake of his head. "Not here. Not yet." He met Ortega's eyes. "Leave." Ortega chuckled and walked out. The SUVs pulled away. Holden exhaled slowly. "You know what's coming, right?" Carter nodded. "Yeah." "You want backup?" "No. I want you to be ready when the time comes." Holden studied him. I've always had a feeling there's more to you than a diner owner. Carter smiled slightly, though it never reached his eyes. Just a father running a grill. But as he watched the SUVs disappear, his mind was already preparing. He had left his old life behind to give Ethan a normal childhood. But if the Zayas cartel wanted to bring their war to his doorstep, he would remind them why some men should never be pushed. That night, he checked the storage unit outside of town. The padlock looked untouched, but he knew better. Someone had tried picking it. He stepped inside, past old equipment and supplies, to the locked steel case in the back. He flipped it open. Cash, weapons, IDs, everything he had hoped to never need again. He ran his fingers over the worn grip of his sidearm, feeling the weight of his past settle over him like an old coat. If they wanted a war, they would get one. By morning, the town was quieter than usual. People spoke in hushed tones, glancing over their shoulders. 3 more businesses had been vandalized. A black SUV made a slow pass down Main Street for the 3rd time that morning. Carter watched from the diner window, his jaw tightening. The cartel was watching, learning patterns, planning their next move. Ethan frowned at his phone. Jake says 2 guys were asking about you at his dad's shop. Wanted to know if you have family in town. Carter's grip on the coffee pot tightened imperceptibly. You remember what I taught you? Ethan's voice was quieter now. The exit drills, the safe words. Good. Go pack an emergency bag. Dad, are we in danger? Not yet. Carter checked the windows again. But if we are, they're the ones who should be worried. At 2:47 a.m., the first firebomb hit the diner's window. It never touched the floor. Carter caught it mid-air, smothering the flames before they could spread. More Molotovs followed, but he was already moving, responding with the kind of speed that didn't belong to a simple diner owner. Outside, the sound of engines revving, of hurried footsteps. Sloppy. Local muscle, not professionals. Holden arrived minutes later, approaching tactically. You good? Carter nodded. They were testing our defenses. You sure you don't want official backup? I don't need official. Holden hesitated. Then what do you need? Carter looked back at the diner, at the home he had built, the son he was protecting. His voice was steady when he spoke. I need them to understand one thing. Holden frowned. And what's that? Carter met his gaze. That they just made the worst mistake of their lives. The next night, Carter moved first. A cartel enforcer found his car tires slashed outside a bar. Another woke up to find his gun missing and a note in its place. Not fast enough. Their lookout, posted near the diner, never checked in again. One by one, they felt the weight of something closing in, something they didn't understand. This wasn't a town rolling over in fear. This was a man hunting them in the dark. Ortega's men huddled together in a rented house on the edge of town, nervous, whispering. Paranoia gripped them. Some hadn't slept in days. The fear coiled tighter with every passing hour, with every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of the outside lights. They were supposed to be the predators, not the prey. Yet something unseen lurked in the shadows, waiting, watching. Then the lights went out. No gunfire, no explosions, just silence. Then came the first scream, a guttural, raw sound that curdled the blood. The others scrambled for weapons, their hands slick with sweat, their breath coming in ragged gasps. Another scream followed, then another, choked off midway, swallowed by the night. Panic set in. They fired blindly into the dark, the muzzle flashes illuminating empty rooms, vacant hallways. The walls felt like they were closing in, suffocating them in their own fear. The house had become a coffin. By dawn, it was over. The house stood silent. Some had fled, running so fast they left everything behind, guns, money, even shoes. Others were simply gone, as if the night itself had swallowed them whole. The few that remained, huddled and broken, refused to speak of what had happened. Their minds had unraveled in the dark, left haunted by the things they had heard but never seen. Ortega got the message. The SUVs left town in a single-file line, not with the defiance of a cartel pulling out, but with the quiet retreat of men who had glimpsed something beyond their understanding. No threats, no retaliation, just absence. Holden found Carter at the diner the next morning, sipping coffee like nothing had happened. He slid into the seat across from him, watching. They're gone, Holden said finally. Carter nodded. For now. Holden hesitated, studying the man in front of him. You didn't just scare them off. You sent a message. What exactly did you tell them? Carter met his gaze, eyes cold, unwavering. That I am not a man to be threatened. That if they ever come back. He took a slow sip of his coffee, letting the weight of his words settle between them before finishing, voice like iron. They won't get the chance to leave next time. Holden exhaled, rubbing a hand over his jaw. The diner around them buzzed with morning chatter, the clinking of plates, the scent of fresh coffee and bacon on the griddle. The world went on, oblivious to the war that had been waged in the dark. But Holden knew better. He knew this wasn't over. Not really. Carter finished his coffee, set the cup down, and slid out of the booth. He dropped a few bills on the table and met Holden's gaze one last time before heading for the door. Holden watched him go, a chill settling in his bones. Some men fought battles with guns, others with fear. And Carter? He had become something else entirely. A ghost in the dark, a nightmare that didn't leave witnesses.